FOS TV is brought to you by the Lion's Den. The Den always has been and always will be about enjoying family and friends in an environment steeped in Happy Valley tradition. So come back to the Den, the perfect place to recall old memories while creating new ones.
Mark Brennan of Fight on State here with our weekly Joe Paterno wrap. We're going into the stretch run of the season, so I'm going back to the top of the order, Neil Rudel of the Altoona Mirror. Neil, Joe today seemed a little cranky early on, but he loosened up a little bit. What are some of the things that jumped out at you from the press conference?
Well, I think he came here, he had made up his mind he wasn't going to talk about the quarterback, so he started doing one-word answers. So it took Joe Giuliano to smell that out and say, you know, are you tired talking about the quarterbacks? And that probably got the most thorough answer from anybody, but he still said that he doesn't know he didn't commit to a starter.
Yeah, so with respect to the quarterbacks, it was asked who would start, and Joe basically said, I have no idea. And somebody tried to ask him how McGloin played. He said he played well last week, so we don't really know a whole lot about the quarterback situation. You know, my gut on this, Neil, I'm not sure about you. I'll be real surprised if McGloin's not the starter, and I think a lot of fans out there will be too.
Well, I think a lot of people would really be not only perplexed, but probably a little angry. Because, for one thing, they told McGloin before the Purdue game, if you can even imagine, I can't even understand how this whole thing has begun to be handled. McGloin knew apparently that he was going to start the whole time against Northwestern, and I thought you made a good point. Maybe they wanted to make the change while they were on the road, so maybe that probably makes sense, but who knows what they've told Bolden. The thing is, Bolden was at the helm of their worst performance in a long time last year against Illinois. So if you really want to mess around and draw daisies now, I just can't envision it.
Yeah, it wouldn't make much sense at all. McGloin did even play in that game last year against Illinois. So this is, listen, in my view, he's proven himself. We keep saying it over and over and over. He's not been spectacular, but he's been good enough for this team to be here at 7-1 going into the stretch run. And listen, frankly, I didn't think they would, after their first few games, I didn't think they'd be 7-1 at this point. I don't know if you did, but the simple fact of the matter is they are, and they have a chance to do some interesting things here late in the season.
Yeah, but I don't know that they can do them with still a quarterback rotation. And I don't know that McGloin has been spectacular, but I think he's been very good. Other than Alabama, he's given them a vertical passing game, and he's averaging about 10 yards per completion at least.
Yeah, and the thing I like, we saw it again out at Northwestern, very cool under pressure. I mean, that's one of the things beyond the stats that really differentiate his play from Bolden. He is a cool customer. I mean, the one time he was sacked, he had no chance of getting away, but some of the other times they brought pressure and he kind of danced away. Somebody said he's got the, like the Force in Star Wars. He has this sense of where people are, and he's done a good job of that, and I really do think he's their best option. I think Joe realizes, I think everybody realizes it. That's why they stuck with him last week, and I'll be surprised if he's not the guy this week.
Yeah, they just probably haven't totally communicated that to Bolden. But McGloin's been here now. He's into his fourth year here, and that means something. Bolden's still only been here a year and a half. So, McGloin has much more pocket presence. He can make all the throws, and it just so happens that a kid that came here as a walk-on happens to be your best quarterback. I think you got to live with that.
Yeah, another thing that came out of the press conference today that kind of caught my ear is, Joe keeps being asked about how he's doing physically, and he's been as honest about these things as he's ever been. He talked about the frustration level that he's dealing with not being down on the sideline. He said out at Northwestern he intended to spend the entire game on the sideline, but they got there, and it's real tight quarters down there, and there's very difficult to protect him. He's worried about being in the way. It's really, you get the sense that end of it is wearing on him as much as anything at this point. He jokes about, his lack of patience with the media. Maybe that's not joking. Maybe that's half joking. But it sure seems to me as if this is legitimately worrying him. And you wonder, big picture, does this sort of thing play into what may happen after the season?
Yeah, I mean, at one point he said, but there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there is.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he does something about that, because really, what's going to change between now and over the summer? Yeah, maybe he'll get a little better. He'll get better physically, but he'll still always be at risk on the sideline and at practice. And if he continues to want to put himself in harm's way. I guess he'll continue to coach beyond this year, but I was kind of curious because he was working his way up to, well, there's really nothing you can do about it. Well, there kind of is.
Yeah, Chima Coley had some comments, and we'll show them to you right now.
All of Joe's injuries come from him wanting to be too close to the action. You know what I mean? And I really think that you can't pry him away. Excuse me. You can't pry him away from football because he wants to be there so badly. You know what I mean? And he wants to yell at the referees. And you know, when you make a bad play, he wants to tell you exactly how he feels about it and not mince words. And he feels like being in the press box, he's a little bit stunted to a degree. So he wants to get out there really badly. And you know, we all want him down there.
Okay, Neil, so what else from the, we heard Chima, what else from the press conference jumped out at you today?
Well, he was complimentary of Jones. I know
Dave Jones? Or Steve?
Well, he'd be totally...
Dave
Steve
Jones.
Steve. You got me derailed now. Dave, Kim Jones. How about a shout out to Kim? Ryan, there's been a lot of Joneses on there. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses.
So that's
good. But I had asked him about Paul Jones because he hasn't been asked about it a lot. And I was kind of curious. He's on the practice squad or the scout team, and Joe was pretty complimentary of how he's done.
Yeah, he said they haven't gotten grades in for this semester yet, but he did say some good things about him as a player, and that's a positive. I mean, this kid's stuck with it. He could have easily have bailed on the program. And looking forward, he could be a guy that's really, I don't want to say that he's going to leapfrog other people, but who knows what's going to happen with Bolden after the season. So this all of a sudden could be a real key guy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe said he had a bright future. I mean, he's a kid that is still getting used to college. So that was one thing. He said Suey, because I know we were surprised that Suey is still not listed on Jeff Nelson's injury report, but he has a Green Cross, and I think he has some kind of an injury where he can't get hit. Joe says he could play, but he'd have to play in a lot of pain.
Yeah, it sounds like some sort of stinger type thing. That's what we heard. The other thing Joe said, Illinois is as athletic a team as they've played this year, the best team physically since Alabama, and I think that's probably an accurate assessment. They're doing a crazy photo here in the background, by the way. I'm anxious to see what it is. They have this big boom thing that they're going to be shooting down at the end zone. So I'm anxious to see what comes of that. But
sure, they couldn't have done that in 10 minutes. So this is always sort of par for the course.
Oh, who cares? I mean, this is why it's fun, Neil. We could have been doing this inside, wherever. But with respect to Illinois, that's par for the course. Illinois usually rolls in here with a lot of talent. We saw it last year. Somewhere along the way in most seasons, though, these Ron Zook teams kind of implode. But Penn State better bring its A game, and you would think after the way they were kind of embarrassed last year, and the guys have used that word themselves, that they will be ready to play this week.
Well, Joe said that Illinois will be as good a team as they've played so far, other than Alabama. He's very complimentary. He said they'd have to play better than they have at any point this year. When you look at the big picture, they have a good win over Iowa, but the rest of the teams that they've struggled with have not been that great. And I'm not sure how great Illinois is. They didn't play well last week, but this to me is a real key game. You play well, you go into the bye week feeling good about yourself, and then see what you got against Nebraska.
And that's all you could ask for in this season with the new division setup, even with an out-of-conference loss, and even if had they lost one along the way somewhere, get to November against that backloaded schedule with an opportunity to do some things. And that's what I really love about the whole division thing. Now all of a sudden, a lot of teams are still in it. You're here fighting for it. I really love this divisional situation.
It's cool. I mean, and how many Penn State fans have really been that interested in a Wisconsin-Michigan State game in the past? Now you have Michigan State coming off their Super Bowl and has to go to Nebraska and play an 11 a.m. start. That's a tough assignment. You have Wisconsin going to Ohio State. So there's a lot to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend, and Penn State somehow ends up with a 3:30 game. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a compliment to their TV following. Joe, so many shots of Joe in the press box in the last couple minutes of that game. So everybody likes to continue to hang on to him. And one thing was different in the press box. Dick Anderson was sitting up above. He usually sits beside Galen. Joe was beside Galen. Then Vanderlinden was beside Joe.
This is what it's come down to, Neil. Is now we're not only analyzing what's going on in the field, but where people are sitting in the press box. I didn't make too much of it. You were one seat closer to me than usual,
Hey, we enjoyed it even.
Yeah, it was actually a good time. But hey, obviously we talk about big TV ratings. The Nitwits that Neil and I have been a part of for how many years now?
14.
Wow, it's unbelievable. You could watch it at AltoonaMirror.com. Is that the best place to see it?
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate Fight on State linking and the partnership that we've had with you, not only there, but we've had a lot of fun over the years.
And we also like to give our guests each week an opportunity to pimp whatever they want to pimp. And I'm wondering, you know, you're getting into the whole Twitter thing now. We've dragged you kicking and screaming into the Twitter area. So it's at Neil Rudel.
At Neil Rudel, and I'm having a little fun. I'm starting to understand Twitter. I do think it's for not people that aren't watching the game, but I think it's for. But it's been a lot of fun. You know, we have a lot of laughs in the press box, and
depending on the game.
Yeah, and you can kind of take that and take it to instantaneous, real-time commentary.
Yeah, so I think we hit on everything. Did I miss anything from the press conference that was important? It was a little bit on the short side today.
It was very short. I thought when he wouldn't answer Joe Giuliano, he offered Joe Giuliano a second question, which I thought Bernard would make up for. But
Bernard Fernandez, the king of the long questions.
More time in the live segment today.
Yeah, we had some fun talking to Chima Coley. He was tremendous. We had some comments on from him earlier, and what a great representative of the program that kid is. Just a great sense of humor, and he's been fun to be around all year.
Yeah, they have great kids in the program. Still pretty selective, I think, in the kids they recruit. I thought Chima actually would be a captain going into the season because he's such an infectious personality and a great spokesman.
Yeah, but they have a lot of guys who maybe aren't captains who kind of, you know, fill that role or seem like they're in that role. So anyway, hey, they turned off the big boom back here. We're anxious to see what happens with this photo. We'll let you know about it on Fight on State. We appreciate everybody for being with us. Neil Rudel stopping by, again, going into the stretch run. Thanks for being with us, folks, and we look forward to seeing you next week.